Hi there, I'm Leora. My parents took my business idea, the one I spent years building, and handed it to my sister like it was a family favor. No warning, no credit, just gone. Then they told me I was selfish for speaking up. It started with a pitch I trusted them with, and ended in court. But what hurt more than the betrayal was realizing they never saw me as their daughter, just a product they could repurpose. I had just finished heating up leftover pasta when Mom called. She asked if I had time for dinner at home. I almost said no, but something about her tone, sweet, careful, got to me. So I drove over. The house smelled the same. Garlic, fabric softener, guilt. We sat around the dining table. Carla poured wine like we were celebrating something. Ronald barely looked at me, but asked vague questions about my latest project. They never really asked before. This time, it felt like they were taking notes. "How does this life vault thing even make money?" Dad asked, voice casual but tight. I remember smiling, just a bit. "It's not about the money yet. It's about building trust. For women, privacy-first security." Carla nodded too quickly. "That's very noble of you, sweetie. Aileen always said you're the quiet genius in the family." That should have made me proud, but it felt rehearsed. 2 nights later, I was at work, eating at my desk. I checked Instagram to distract myself from the spreadsheet crawling across my screen, and then I saw it. Aileen, my sister, her smiling face under a caption that turned my stomach. "Proud to announce the launch of my tech startup Life Vault, empowering women to protect what matters. #cybertech #female-ed." My heart didn't drop. It clenched. Same name, same platform. Even the font I designed. I stared at her post for a full minute before calling Carla. She picked up fast, too fast. "What's going on?" I asked. "Why is Aileen using my startup name, my work?" A pause. Then that syrupy voice again. "Don't overreact, honey. Your sister's been through so much. She just needs a win right now." "You gave her my work." Dad's voice cut in from the background. "She's your sister. You know how hard it's been for her. You're doing great. Can't you just be happy for her?" I didn't hang up. I let silence say what I couldn't. Then I ended the call. That night, I logged into my cloud account. Download logs showed Dad's email had accessed my prototype folders. 2 days ago. I wasn't just betrayed, I was studied. All those years, part-time jobs, coding at 2 a.m., skipping vacations, skipping people, while Aileen backpacked through Europe on their dime. I was never the daughter, I was the worker. I opened LinkedIn. Aileen's new title gleamed on her profile, Founder and CEO, Life Vault. She even used the same tagline I wrote in my pitch deck. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I stared at her photo until my jaw ached from clenching. I sat still for a long time, letting the weight of it all settle in my chest like wet cement. Then I stood, grabbed my coat, and stepped into the cold. The air bit at my cheeks, but it kept me alert, focused. I wasn't going to sleep, not yet. The car ride to my parents' house felt longer than usual. Maybe because I knew this wasn't a visit. It was a confrontation. I didn't knock. I walked right in, still had a key they never asked for back. The TV was on. Carla was folding laundry on the couch. Ronald sat across from her, scrolling through his phone like none of this had happened. She looked up. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here so late?" I held my phone out to her, screen glowing with Aileen's post. "Tell me this is a joke." Ronald sighed like I was inconveniencing him. "Leora, she's had a rough year. You've always been the stable one. You'll bounce back." "Bounce back?" I almost laughed. "You gave her my company, my idea, my pitch deck. She's using my code." Carla placed the towel down and crossed her arms. "We didn't give her anything. We supported her, and we supported you, for years. We made sacrifices so you could be who you are. You wouldn't be in tech if we didn't feed you, house you." I cut her off. "You fed me so I could feed her." Ronald stood, voice harder now. "Watch your tone. We did what parents do. Now it's your turn to give back." "By letting you hand over the only thing I built for myself?" "Don't be dramatic," Carla said, lips pursed. "She's your sister. She needs this. You're going to make her feel like a thief now?" "She is a thief," I said, eyes locked on her. "And so are you." Her expression shifted. Hurt, then indignation, then something colder. You should be proud she's finally stepping up. Why ruin her moment? I took a breath so I wouldn't scream. You know exactly what you did, and I'm not going to pretend this is okay just to keep the peace. Carla's voice softened in that fake, pitying way. You've always been intense, honey. Maybe this is just one of your phases. That's when I knew they weren't going to admit anything. They didn't even believe they'd done anything wrong. That was the worst part. I didn't bother saying goodbye. I walked out and didn't look back. By the time I got home, it was nearly midnight. The apartment was quiet, but Luna greeted me with her usual tail-thumping excitement. I rubbed behind her ears, whispered a thank you I hadn't planned to say. I poured a glass of water, sat at my desk, and opened my laptop. I clicked New Document. The cursor blinked against the blank screen like it was daring me to begin. But before I could write a word, a notification popped up on my phone. Someone had tagged Aileen in a new post. I clicked out of reflex, thinking it might be another fake interview or press feature. It was worse. A GoFundMe. Help support Aileen's tech dream, it read in bold letters. Below it, a photo of her smiling in front of a whiteboard I recognized from my old mock-ups. But it wasn't the campaign that made my jaw tighten. It was who had organized it. Dorothea, my dad's sister. She had written, "This is what happens when talent meets purpose, and family steps up to help." The gall. Dorothea had never once reached out to ask what I was working on, but I remembered her hovering behind me last Christmas, pretending to admire my tree while her eyes locked onto my open laptop. I'd brushed it off then. Now I couldn't. I clicked through the list of donors, names I hadn't seen in months. A cousin, an uncle, even a former babysitter. And not one of them had texted me, not even a comment like, "Hey, is this the same life vault you were working on?" I texted my cousin Janine. Simple. "Hey, just wondering, did you know Aileen's project is based on mine?" No response. That night, I joined a Zoom call for Grandma's birthday. Everyone smiled, laughed, shared stories. But not one person asked how I was doing. I wasn't invisible. I was being ignored. The next morning, I woke up to find I had been removed from the family Facebook group. No explanation, no warning, just gone. They didn't need to say anything cruel. Silence was sharper. I started documenting. Screenshots of donation lists, shares, likes, public praise under Aileen's post with comments like, "So proud of you, girl," and "You're finally coming into your own." She hadn't come into anything. She'd taken it. I stopped texting people, stopped replying. I changed every password tied to family emails, shut down shared accounts. I revoked access to the shared Netflix they still used under my name. I was done handing out pieces of myself. And still, no one asked why. I printed the GoFundMe campaign and taped it to the wall beside my desk. I grabbed a sticky note and wrote 4 words in thick black ink. Fraud is still fraud. I stepped away from the wall, the GoFundMe printout fluttering slightly from the draft under the window. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like record-keeping. I was done waiting for someone else to make this right. So I opened my browser, pulled up the back end of my old prototype hosting platform, and went looking. Every log, every IP, every access attempt. And there it was, Ronald's IP address pinging my files 2 days before Aileen's announcement. Then came the texts. Group messages from Carla I'd saved without really reading before. One stuck out now, sent 3 nights ago. So proud of Aileen finally having a platform to shine. It wasn't praise, it was confession. The next morning, I drove across town to the law school. I didn't use my real name at the check-in desk, just my initials. It wasn't about hiding, it was about controlling the story. I spoke to a volunteer attorney. She was in her 30s, sharp eyes, no fluff. I laid it all out, timelines, screenshots, prototypes, even the GoFundMe. She listened without interrupting, then finally said, "You've got enough here to pursue misappropriation, trade secret infringement, possibly even fraud, depending on where the money went." That was all I needed. I walked out with a list of documents to gather and a date to file. That night, I typed a single message in the family group chat. "This is no longer a family matter. You've misused my intellectual property. You'll be hearing from me, officially." It was quiet for 5 minutes. Then Carla responded, "How dare you threaten us after all we've done for you?" I replied without hesitation. You didn't build me. You stole from me. No one responded after that. I printed everything out, emails, timestamps, screenshots, and placed them into a yellow envelope. In bold black letters I wrote, "Confidential." At sunrise, I drove to the FedEx drop box a few blocks from my apartment. The air was cold and still. I didn't hesitate. I let the envelope slide from my fingers into the steel box. By noon, I was back at my desk, answering emails when my phone buzzed 3 times in a row. First message was a link. Second said, "Isn't this your sister?" Third, "This is messed up." I clicked. Aileen was on TikTok, fake tears pooling under lashes she probably had done for the video. Her voice was shaky, rehearsed. I spent years building this. I just want to help people. But now, someone is trying to destroy everything I've worked for, just because we share blood. Caption read, "Blood isn't always thicker than ambition. #sister sabotage. #female founders. #protect women in tech." It already had 68,000 views. Comments were pouring in. Strangers calling me toxic, ungrateful, selfish. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until the pressure in my chest forced it out. "They flipped the script," I muttered, "and people bought it." By late afternoon, I had 3 investor emails in my inbox. 2 paused funding, 1 backed out entirely. Reddit threads popped up, screenshots of my old blog, conspiracies about me swooping in to ruin Aileen's brand. "And Carla?" she commented under the video. "Proud of you for staying strong, sweetie." They didn't need the truth. They needed a victim, and they handed my face to the wolves. But I wasn't going to beg for grace. I opened Twitter, typed slow, checked every word. I didn't lose my startup. It was taken, and now it's being painted as charity. Be careful who you call family. I hit post. In under an hour, it hit 15K likes. A few ex-coworkers shared it. One commented, "I remember the prototypes. This is hers." It didn't change everything, but it cracked the illusion. That night, I stepped out to take Luna for a walk. When I got back, something was taped to my apartment door. A printed sheet, black and white. Dozens of TikTok comments, calling me every name in the book. I didn't flinch. I pulled it down, folded it in half, and walked straight to my desk. Picked up the phone, dialed. The phone call didn't last long, just enough to give the green light. By morning, it was everywhere. Not from me, from Carla. A piece in the local paper titled, "When Your Child Turns Against the Family." She shared it across every group, every Facebook page that still tolerated her voice. She wrote about my emotional volatility, how I had grown distant and resentful, and how Aileen had done nothing but try to bring the family closer through innovation. Then came Ronald's quote at the bottom. Just one line. "We supported both girls. We didn't expect to be repaid with lawsuits." It wasn't just damage control. It was a hit job, carefully wrapped in motherly disappointment and public sorrow, strategic, calculated, cruel. What broke me wasn't the article. It was seeing it reposted by people who once said I was the smart one. Later that day, I received an email from a friend in the startup community. "You see this?" Attached was a screenshot, Aileen's face on a tech blog. She'd been nominated for a statewide award in women-led innovation. The caption read, "The new face of ethical cybersecurity." I couldn't stop staring. Not out of jealousy, not anymore, but because it proved something. They weren't just erasing me, they were replacing me. So I stopped reading, dressed in black, drove downtown, walked into my attorney's office with everything I had, proof, code, statements. I signed every page without flinching, filed a formal complaint for IP theft and misrepresentation. That same evening, I uploaded a press release through my official site. Just facts. No heat, no theatrics. Miss Leora M. is pursuing legal action for misappropriation of proprietary software, branding, and media use associated with the LifeVault product suite. I didn't need to yell. I just needed to be clear. At 8:14 p.m., my attorney texted, "It's filed. Expect noise by Monday." I stood by the window, watching traffic blur below. The air was cold enough to sting. Back at my desk, I reopened the pinned document, the one I started the night this all began, and at the very top, I typed one more line. "You can steal the name, but I own the story." I woke early that morning, the kind of alertness that doesn't come from sleep but from necessity. I dressed like I was attending a funeral, because in a way, I was. The funeral of their version of me. The courthouse smelled of old paper and cold tile. I walked in alone, folder in hand. No entourage, no cameras, just my truth. Aileen arrived 10 minutes later, flanked by Carla, Ronald, and Dorothea. They looked like they were headed to a benefit gala. Tailored outfits, dramatic scarves, not a single wrinkle in sight. I didn't look at them. I looked at the judge. Aileen's lawyer went first. "She's a visionary," he said. "This is a smear campaign by a jealous sibling who couldn't handle being outshined." Ronald nodded solemnly. Carla clutched a tissue. Dorothea stared daggers. Then it was our turn. My attorney stood, calm and sharp. "This case isn't about hurt feelings. It's about intellectual theft. We have logs. We have timestamps. We have witnesses." Then I took the stand. My palms were dry. My voice didn't shake. I walked the court through my concept, my years of development, the cloud logs, the source code. I read aloud an email to Carla, dated over a year before Aileen's launch. "Mom, here's what I'm building. It's early, but it matters to me." Then I held up a printed copy of Aileen's GoFundMe. Her blurb? Word for word from my pitch deck. Finally, I read one text from Carla that ended any doubt. "Finally, Aileen has something of her own, thanks to your hard work." The room went quiet. Aileen was called up. She smiled too wide. Her voice cracked before the first question ended. "How did you design the encryption protocol for LifeVault's login system?" Her answer came after a pause. I mean, it was a team effort. We were always kind of brainstorming as sisters. More questions, more fumbles, no specifics, just vague inspiration. When asked to produce early design notes, she froze. I thought we were a team, family. Even the judge didn't hide the raised brow. By the time court adjourned for the day, the press had gathered outside. A reporter shoved a mic near me. "Is this about justice or revenge?" I looked straight into the lens. "It's about boundaries." They thought the courtroom would break me. They didn't expect it to set me free. That morning, the courtroom was packed tighter than usual. A hushed buzz floated above the rows of stiff suits and whispering eyes. The judge entered, robe flowing like consequence. He didn't waste time. "This court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Miss Leora M., on all primary counts, including intellectual property misappropriation, defamation, and unauthorized use of proprietary assets." The words echoed louder in my mind than in the room. Aileen was ordered to cease all operations tied to LifeVault, issue a formal retraction, and pay damages. Carla let out a gasp, like the verdict had struck her physically. Ronald stood as if to protest, but the judge shut it down with a single raised hand. Silence again. Outside, cameras flared. Reporters shouted my name. I didn't stop. Carla caught up. "You destroyed your own family," she spat. I looked at her, calm. "No, I just stopped letting it destroy me." Ronald reached for my shoulder. I didn't let him touch me. Back home, I did what needed to be done. Deleted the family group chat, blocked every number, erased shared calendars, cloud access, even the Spotify playlist Carla once called Our Thing. Then I recorded one final voicemail for her. "We're done. No more explanations, no more guilt. Don't contact me again. Ever. Not revenge. Exit." That evening, as I watched Luna curl up on the couch, my phone buzzed. My attorney's name lit the screen. "The press wants your side. It's your call." I didn't answer right away. I looked out the window instead. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm. Winning didn't fix the past, but it gave me back the future. A week passed before I stepped back into my home office. The court documents were already framed and hung, not as trophies, but as reminders. Right beside them, a whiteboard bloomed with fresh designs. The next version of LifeVault, not a comeback, a continuation. Each morning I brewed my own coffee, not out of routine, but choice. I checked emails from women who had followed my story. Some shared how their ideas had been taken. Some just said thank you. Harlan came by every Sunday without fail. He brought his old tools in a rusted red box and taught me how to build a standing desk from reclaimed oak. "You don't throw away what's solid," he told me, tapping the wood. "You reshape it." We didn't talk about the lawsuit much. He wasn't interested in gossip. He was interested in character. People think blood makes a family, he said once, handing me a sanding block. But it's the ones who show up when you're bruised who really count. We'd eat ham sandwiches on the porch afterward, Luna curled up between us, snoring softly. One afternoon, a screenshot found its way to my inbox. Aileen's account had gone dark, but before it did, someone captured her final post. Taking space, learning things the hard way, please no messages. I didn't feel victory, I felt distance, the clean kind. That same day, an email from Carla slipped past my filter. I didn't even open it, just saw the subject line. Can we talk? Delete. Healing didn't mean looking back. It meant planting roots where trust could actually grow. Later that evening, I took Luna to the park. The sun was low and warm. A little girl sat on the grass, holding up a crayon drawing to her mom. She beamed as if she'd painted the sky. I smiled without thinking. I had built something. Not just an app or a case file, but a life, one that no one else got to rewrite. I didn't rebuild what I lost. I built what they said I couldn't. A world where I didn't need their permission to feel whole. Sometimes, the people who raise you are the first to underestimate you. And when that happens, you have two choices: shrink to fit their version of you, or rise into your own. I used to believe loyalty meant silence, that keeping the peace was more important than being respected. But I've learned, peace that comes at the cost of your self-worth isn't peace at all. It's a slow kind of erasure. I didn't just win a lawsuit, I reclaimed my voice, I rebuilt my dignity, and I'm not telling this story to get even. I'm telling it so someone out there knows you're not crazy, you're not dramatic, and you don't owe anyone your success just because they share your last name. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there right now, feeling gaslit, second-guessed, sidelined by the very people you thought would support you. If that's you, I hope this reminds you that it's not selfish to protect your boundaries. It's survival, and it's strength. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you loved? And what did you do about it? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's break the cycle together. And hey, if this video moved you, made you feel seen, or just gave you something to think about, leave a 1 in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. I read every single one. Didn't vibe with the story? That's okay too. Tell me why and where you're tuning in. And most of all, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story. There's more truth, more healing, and more real-life courage coming your way. Because this channel, it's not just about stories. It's about starting over with strength. Thanks for watching. I'm Leora, and I'll see you in the next one.
When I looked at my phone, I saw that my mother-in-law, Martha, had called me 13 times. I'd groaned to myself, realizing she was probably calling about money again. Just as I was thinking about this, my phone buzzed again. "Hello," I answered. Martha started yelling right away, demanding to know where her $3,000 allowance was for the month. I tried to explain that the money hadn't been deposited yet, that she didn't care about my situation at all. She just wanted what she wanted. I was fed up. She never thinks about how her words and actions affect others. I had no choice but to tell her the truth. Her son had passed away, so I couldn't send her any money anymore. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm 32 years old, and I work at a big financial company. I'd also take care of our home. I got married to Mary about 2 years ago. I met my husband, Mark, through our shared interests, and we fell in love quickly. After dating for a year, we got engaged and then married. We believed we were meant for each other, and things were going well for us. But here's where a problem came up. Martha, my mother-in-law. Mark's father had passed away a few years ago, and since Mark didn't have any siblings, Martha was his only family. The trouble started when I first visited her home to meet her before our wedding. "Nice to meet you, Martha," I said, but she didn't seem pleased. "So, you're Mark's fiancée," she said with a hint of disapproval. "Ah, yes, my name is Jennifer Miller," I replied. "You're quite plain, aren't you?" "I wonder what Mark sees in you," she said, and I couldn't tell if she was joking or serious. Her words shocked me, coming from the mother of the man I loved. Seeing my reaction, Mark frowned at his mom. "Mom, why are you being so harsh? How can you say such things about the person I chose?" he asked. "No, Mark, I'm just trying to find the right woman for you," Martha replied. "But I chose her." "You have no right to interfere," Mark insisted. The argument got tense, and I couldn't intervene since it was my first meeting with Martha. Despite the awkward atmosphere, we managed to express our intention to marry. But as we were leaving, Martha called out to Mark. "Can I have a word, Mark?" she asked, sounding a bit unhappy. "You'll still send me the allowance after you get married, right?" she asked. "What promise?" Mark replied. "You know, the allowance," Martha reminded him. "Oh, that. Yes, I'll take care of it. Can we not discuss it here, please?" Mark replied, a bit uncomfortable. The tension between my husband and his mother lingered in the car on the way home. I finally asked Mark about what had been bothering me. "Hey, Mark, about the conversation you had with your mom as we were leaving." "Yeah, I should have told you about it, Jennifer. I heard something about an allowance. After my dad passed away, I've been sending money to my mom every month." "How much?" $2,000. $2,000? I couldn't help but raise my voice in surprise. He sighed deeply and began to speak slowly. "Actually, my mom has a debt. She lost a lot of money at a casino a long time ago, and she's still paying it off. And because her health isn't great these days, she spends a lot of time at home. But she still needs money to live on. But $2,000? Isn't that a bit too much? If I try to lower the amount, she keeps calling me over and over. And no matter what, a mother is still a mother. I worry about her living alone." I see, Mark is really devoted to his mother. But of course, that makes sense. Since his father passed away, Martha has been the only family he has left. Regardless of her character, she's still his beloved mother. At that time, I only thought of my husband as a kind person. 2 months after our wedding, during my lunch break one day, I received a phone call on my smartphone. The call was from Martha. When I answered with a hello, Martha began to speak in a cheerful tone. "Jennifer, long time no see. Can we chat for a bit?" "Yes. What can I do for you?" "Well, I was hoping you could start sending me money." "Excuse me?" I was so taken aback I couldn't find the words to respond. However, Martha seemed excited to continue the conversation. "You mentioned before that you're working for a financial company, right? That means you have a good salary, doesn't it?" "Well, not exactly." "What? You're lying to avoid giving me money?" "That's not what I mean." "Then what is it?" "But Martha, you're still receiving financial support from Mark, aren't you?" I asked. Martha responded defiantly, "So what?" I sternly stated what I felt. "Martha, receiving $2,000 monthly support is a big deal, and yet you're asking for more." Really? You think so? If you were to send me an additional $1,000, I could avoid burdening Mark," Martha replied. "What do you mean by that?" "Well, I have Mark as a guarantor for my debts. If I fail to make payments, the debt collectors will go after him. Do you understand? But aren't you using part of Mark's $2,000 to pay back the debt?" "I'm short. I haven't told Mark. But I have a significant amount of debt," Martha confessed. Even her husband was unaware of it. Having children in the future would increase our expenses. In addition to that, taking over Martha's debt was not an easy task. But if Martha's payments fall behind and the debt falls onto Mark, the interest will likely have accumulated significantly by that time. If I refused to send money, it would eventually become a problem for my husband as well. It was better for Martha to pay off her debt now. Thinking along those lines, I reluctantly agreed to Martha's proposal. "All right, I'll start sending you money." "Really? Good, Jennifer. I knew you would say that. The total, with Mark's contribution, will be $3,000. But this means you can pay off your debt, right?" Martha asked eagerly. "Yes, of course. I should be able to pay it all off in about a year. You promise, right? You'll make sure to pay off all your debts?" I get it. So, I'll be expecting it from this month onwards. Martha ended the call abruptly. Physical exhaustion from work combined with this emotional burden only added to my stress. $1,000 a month? That's gonna be rough. But it's also to prevent future problems for us. After all, if Martha can't make a living, it will upset Mark as well. That night, I promptly reported the matter to my husband. He told me I didn't have to do this. But I had already given my word to Martha, and it was a decision made for our future well-being. Mark expressed his gratitude and understanding, even as he maintained a sorry expression throughout. Time flew by, and 2 years have passed since then. The financial aid we thought would end in a year is still ongoing, and even now, we are transferring $3,000 every month to Martha. What's more, about 2 months ago, Mark fell ill and has been unable to go to work. He's on sick leave, so he's receiving disability benefits, but it's a mere pittance compared to his previous salary. Last month, I managed to transfer $3,000 to Martha from my savings, but it would be very challenging if this situation continues. Unbelievably, Martha has not once come to visit her sick son. We have told her about his hospitalization, but she doesn't show up to see him and only contacts me to ask, "You're still sending the money, right?" I was so angry that I decided to confront Mark about the issue. "Mark, listen, don't you think it's wrong that Martha is only concerned about money, even though you're in such a state? We need to think seriously about what to do going forward." "Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. I don't want to put more strain on you, Jennifer. This month, too, she's been bombarding me with calls and messages asking if we've sent the money yet. Are you serious? How can she only think about money when her own son is sick?" Mark showed his anger at his mother, his face slightly worn. Then, as if he had an idea, Mark exclaimed, "That's it," and wore a sly grin. "What is it, Mark?" "Well, this is our last resort. I've come up with something good, for my mom." "What?" Mark suggested a plan I could never have imagined. Although it could be called inappropriate, that seemed to be the only way to make Martha understand. A few weeks later, Mark was discharged from the hospital. Martha didn't reply to any of our messages, so we didn't tell her about Mark's discharge. In the last 2 weeks, Martha has been relentlessly demanding the money. There's no point in sending money to a mother who doesn't even worry about her son. While Mark and I were enjoying a cup of tea, a message came in on my phone. Upon checking, I found 13 missed calls from Martha again. As I thought, so my phone vibrated again. It was another call from Martha. "Hello." I turned on the speaker microphone so that Mark could hear, and Martha started shouting right away. "Listen, where's the $3,000 for this month?" "Excuse me, that's right. The money for this month hasn't been transferred yet. Martha, do you realize Mark is now? I don't care if he's in the hospital or whatever. It's none of my business. You're working at a good place, right? You must have plenty of savings. Hurry up and transfer it here." Martha was shouting angrily. Eventually, she said something unbelievable. "Listen, since you married Mark, if he can't pay, you have to pay me. Understand? If you refuse, I'll make you the guarantor. Got it?" At that moment, something inside me snapped. She was displaying her desires openly without considering our situation at all. I had reached my breaking point with her. She didn't even try to reflect on her own actions. Now, I had no choice but to resort to the last resort. I firmly declared into my smartphone, "Mark has passed away. I can't send you any more money." At these words, Martha blurted out a baffled, "What?" Yes, this was the last resort that my husband suggested. Lie to Martha about Mark's death and observe her reaction. If she showed any sign of sadness, if she reflected on her behavior and apologized, we would continue to support her financially. But if she didn't reflect, if she demanded money, we would sever ties completely. Deep down, I thought that even a money-grubbing woman like Martha would deeply reflect on her actions if she were told that her own son had died. But the very next moment, Martha burst into loud laughter. "Yay, what's so funny?" I asked. "Well, Isn't it obvious? If Mark is dead, that means his inheritance will be distributed to me too. Excuse me. I've been looking into it since I heard that Mark was sick. Listen here, 2/3 of Mark's assets are yours, but 1/3 is mine. I was at a loss for words. I never thought that when she first heard that her son was sick, she wouldn't look into treatment, but into how the inheritance would be divided. My anger surpassed. I was simply dumbfounded. My husband seemed to feel the same way, and as our eyes met, he slowly nodded. This was the signal to continue with the plan. I once again said to Martha in a strong tone, "Martha, did you hear what I said? Mark is dead." "I heard. What about it?" "Aren't you sad your own son passed away before you? You just make sure to send me some. I won't let you get away with not doing it." With a click, the phone line was cut off, and a dial tone echoed. I glanced at my husband and saw that he was shaking, his face red with anger. "Mark, are you okay?" I asked. My husband looked into my eyes and said, "I'm cutting ties with her. She'll likely come here eventually demanding money. Let's wait until then, okay? But are you really okay with this? Cutting off ties just like that?" "Yeah, I have no regrets. After that call, she's no mother." My husband's eyes were filled with hatred, and I felt the same way. A person who only thinks about money over her own son's life is not family to me. A few days later, as we expected, Martha came to our house. For the time being, I decided to hide my husband in the next room and deal with Martha myself. Then Martha approached me with a face like a demon. "Hey, give me Mark's inheritance right now." Again with that? Anything else to say? He's already dead, isn't he? It's pointless to say anything now. Yet you never even visited him. What are you saying? Are you really his mother? You're so annoying. Give me the inheritance right away. I don't mind getting a lawyer. Speaking more would be a waste of time. Just as I thought, my husband emerged from the next room. Seeing him, Martha let out a startled gasp as if she had seen a ghost. "Mark, why weren't you dead?" "Long time no see, Mom," he said. "Sorry, but the news about my death was a lie." "A lie? How could you be so disrespectful?" Martha exclaimed. "I wanted to confirm your true nature, Mom. I was curious about how you'd handle the allowance if your son died. But you turned out to be a gold digger, just as I suspected," Mark replied sternly. "What? How dare you call your mother a gold digger?" Martha protested. "Silence. I'm cutting ties with a toxic parent like you," Mark shouted. Martha's mouth hung open in disbelief at my husband's angry shouts. She could not come to terms with the fact that her own son was severing ties with her. "What? What does this mean, Mark?" she stammered. "It means exactly what I said. I can't consider someone like you as my mother. No way," Mark declared. "Then what about the allowance? Do you really think I would?" Martha started, but Mark interrupted her. "You're on your own with the debts. We're moving," Mark said firmly. "Wait, please. If you do that, what about my living expenses?" Martha pleaded tearfully, reaching out to my husband. He forcefully shook off her hand, looked at her coldly, and said, "I don't care about your living expenses. You have been living off us without even a single apology. I really understand your despicable nature now. Don't you dare show up in front of us again." "No, wait, Mark. Are you going to abandon your mother?" Martha cried out. But my husband ignored her words. He grabbed Martha's arm and dragged her to the front door. He threw her shoes and bag outside and chased Martha out of the house. Martha made a fuss outside for a while but disappeared after a bit, perhaps unable to withstand the eyes of the neighbors. She tried contacting us multiple times, but we ignored all of her attempts. We set Martha's number to be automatically rejected, and we finished moving. Regarding the matter of co-signing for the debts, it became invalid since Martha had made Mark the co-signer without his consent, and therefore he was not responsible. Without the allowance from us, Martha seems to be leading a miserable life. It's only natural, as she had been using the allowance for her gambling habits instead of paying off her debts. She still has a mountain of debts and is chased by debt collectors every day. She can't gamble anymore, and seems to be working from dawn to dusk for the foreseeable future. It's unlikely that she will be able to pay off her debts completely. She will have to keep working until she is unable to move. This is entirely her own doing. As for us, we are spending fulfilling days in our new home. My husband's condition has stabilized, and he has returned to work after some time. Now there's a new life growing in my belly. We're going to have an additional member in our family next year. From now on, we want to spend happy days as a family of 3. My name is Molly, and I'm turning 32 this year. I work as a salesperson at a company. My husband's name is Mike, and we went to high school together. This year is our 10th wedding anniversary. We started dating in high school and kept our relationship going, even when we went to different colleges. But we always loved each other, so we got married right after we graduated. Even though we dated for a long time before getting married, we still love each other a lot. Shortly after we got married, our first daughter, Kate, was born. She's turning 9 this year. Now, I'm pregnant with our second child, and I'm excited about having another baby after a while. But this time, I've noticed some big changes in my health that I didn't experience when I was pregnant with Kate. I've been feeling sick and really tired, which is new for me. Maybe it's because I'm getting older and it's harder to bounce back from being tired, even after I sleep. Or maybe it's because of all the stress from work and taking care of Kate. I thought about different reasons for feeling this way, but when I took a pregnancy test from the store, it showed that I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with Kate, I didn't have any noticeable changes in my health, so I didn't even know I was pregnant at first. But this time, the morning sickness feels much worse. It's been hard to deal with while working in sales and trying to keep up with everything else. But I worried that if my sickness kept up, it would start affecting my job. So I decided to talk to my boss and take some time off work. When I talked about it with my husband, Mike, he seemed surprised and worried. He remembered how things were when Kate was born and was taken aback by how much worse my morning sickness was this time. He said, "Your morning sickness seems really bad this time. You should take a break from work for a while." I agreed, saying, "It's worse than when I was pregnant with Kate. I'm not feeling well at all. I need to focus on my health and the babies." I hoped that resting at home would help me feel better. But my sickness didn't ease up at all. It actually got worse each day. Even though I was at home, I couldn't do much. I spent most of my time in bed because I felt so sick. I wanted to at least do some chores around the house, but I couldn't even manage that. The smell of laundry detergent made me feel even sicker, so I couldn't handle it. At first, Mike seemed concerned, but lately he's been getting frustrated with me. He might be thinking, "Since you're not working, you should at least do the household chores, right?" I felt ashamed that I couldn't even manage simple tasks around the house. I felt bad for Mike, who was busy with work. Since then, he's been acting different. We used to hug every morning. But now things seem to have changed. Before, Mike used to give me a hug before heading to work. But now, he leaves without saying much. He's been really busy with work, often coming home late because he has to do extra hours. His job involves tasks like preparing documents, entering data, and making phone calls. Even though working extra hours was normal for him, he used to cut back after Kate was born so he could spend more time with her. We both used to work, and Mike wanted to help out more around the house to ease my workload. But lately, he hasn't been pitching in as much, and he's been doing overtime regularly. I think maybe me being on leave and us having less money coming in made Mike feel like he needed to work even harder to support us. Maybe he thinks I should do all the housework since I'm not working right now. But with my morning sickness, I just can't meet his expectations. One night, I finally gathered the courage to ask him for help. "You've been working so hard lately, especially since I've been on leave." "I'm sorry," I said. "Well, I have to earn more for the family, especially with the overtime," he replied. "I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I can't do much housework. The morning sickness is severe, and the smell of detergents and food makes me feel sick," I explained. Really? He asked. Yeah, so, can you please come home a bit earlier and help out with the chores? Once I feel better, I'll go back to work, I pleaded. Upon hearing my request, Mike looked clearly displeased. Don't we have our own rules? I'm working hard, even with overtime, to support the family. I found solace in my daughter's reliability. Kay had grown into a kind-hearted girl, and I was genuinely pleased to see her willingness to help. Despite my efforts, the strained relationship with my husband persisted. He began leaving home early and returning late, with little communication between us. With the birth of our second child approaching, I started feeling anxious. Just when I thought our relationship was beyond repair, Kate shared some unexpected news. One evening, as soon as Kate returned from school, she said, "Mom, something's wrong." I recounted, concerned. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" I asked, worried. She shook her head, indicating no, and said no, but I feel sick. What happened? I inquired, trying to soothe her. Kate hesitated, biting her lower lip before finally speaking. Tears welled up in her eyes as she revealed. On the way home from school, I saw Dad and Abby's mom kissing. Really? I exclaimed, shocked. Abby was a close friend of Kate's, and it was evident that she was deeply affected by what she had witnessed. Unable to control her emotions, she sobbed into my chest. "Oh my God, calm down, honey," I comforted her, holding her close. In that moment, my husband, whom I had considered irreplaceable, became an object of hatred because of his affair. Unable to forgive his infidelity, I vowed to seek revenge. But to do so, I needed to gather thorough evidence. While my husband was away, I began investigating. I searched the rooms and was dismayed to find a large number of receipts that I had never seen before. My morning sickness made it difficult for me to clean up around the house, but I was determined to uncover the truth. I was furious at the disrespect I felt. He thought he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. As I examined the receipts more closely, I realized they were for expensive branded bags and accommodations. Whose money paid for these? I gasped as I remembered something. Despite my pregnancy and morning sickness, I was determined to confirm the truth. It had been a long time since I left the house, and going out like this was rare for me. Feeling unwell, I made my way to the bank, trembling with nervousness as I checked my passbook. There, I was confronted with a reality I wished I could avoid. Just as I suspected, it was from our joint account. Mike and I had opened it after we got married to manage our finances. We saved for our future and paid for our living expenses from this account. But it was also the account used for Mike's frequent purchases of designer bags on his credit card. Even more shocking was the revelation that despite claiming to work overtime, Mike's salary hadn't increased at all. His company was known for being employee-friendly, so his salary should have gone up with overtime hours. But it hadn't changed. At that moment, everything clicked. His late returns home were because he was having an affair with Abby's mother. It was clear that Mike hadn't been working the extra hours he claimed. While I was going through a tough time being pregnant and unwell, he hadn't offered any support and instead engaged in an affair, leaving me deeply disappointed. One evening, while Mike was in the bath, I determinedly took his smartphone. Trying not to alert him, my hands trembled with tension as I entered the passcode. And just like that, the phone unlocked. Perhaps Mike had let his guard down, thinking my severe morning sickness had made me less vigilant. The realization that he had underestimated me fueled my growing anger even more. As I kept my composure, I checked the contents of the smartphone. In the chat app, there were clear exchanges between Mike and Abby's mother, confirming their affair. "I told my wife I have overtime so we can meet tonight," Mike had written. "Really? Can we meet tonight? I can't wait to see you." Abby's mother had responded with a string of heart emojis. If I still had strong feelings for my husband, witnessing such betrayal would have driven me to madness. But now that I no longer harbored any love for him, I was able to focus calmly on gathering evidence. Looking at their recent text messages, I discovered they were planning a trip. It was scheduled for a week, starting from the weekend, with the intention of enjoying various hikes. Of course, my husband hadn't informed me about this trip. I was curious to hear what excuse he'd give on the day of the trip, so I waited patiently. Finally, the morning of the trip arrived. Despite it being a holiday, my husband was busy with preparations from early in the morning. "Good morning. What's got you so busy this early?" I asked, catching him off guard. "Oh, well, you see. What are you doing up so early?" he replied, trying to deflect. I woke up hearing some noise. "What's with the suitcase? Are you going on a trip?" I pressed. "I have a company trip for a week starting today. I thought I told you." "Just wait. I'll buy you a nice souvenir," he said hurriedly, attempting to cover up. As if on cue, Kate woke up too. She seemed curious about what was happening, and, with a slightly dazed expression, asked her father, "Dad, what's happening? Are you leaving?" "He's going on a company trip. He'll bring back a souvenir, so let's look forward to it." "Got it? Can't wait for the souvenir." "Take care," I interjected, with a forced smile. With our smiles, my husband left the house with a wry smile of his own. After his departure, we looked at each other and burst into laughter. Dad's voice was shaking when he lied. Anyone could tell he was lying, Kate remarked between giggles. After sharing a good laugh, we began discussing our next steps. "Okay, I'm about to discuss something important. Listen carefully. I'm thinking of getting a divorce." "I believe it's crucial for you too," I said solemnly. Kate's response to the situation was mature beyond her years. She expressed her discomfort with having a father who cheated on me, and she empathized with Abby, her friend, who was likely going through a tough time too. Her concern for Abby's well-being showed her compassion and understanding. Abby's sudden disappearance and betrayal of her daughter's trust only fueled my determination for revenge. I felt strongly that there should be no compromise when it came to holding them accountable for their actions. With newfound motivation, I took decisive actions to protect myself and Kate. I canceled our credit cards to prevent my husband from spending any more money recklessly. I also transferred half of the savings from our joint account to my personal account to ensure a fair division of assets. We moved back to my parents' house, leaving behind the memories of our life with my husband. Kate's positive attitude during the move reassured me that we were making the right decision for our future. Discovering messages between my husband and Abby's mother, where they expressed their desire to be together, only solidified my resolve. I packed up my husband's belongings and sent them to Abby's mother's parents' house, along with the termination of our lease agreement. My husband's subsequent call, asking for money, only confirmed that my actions had hit their mark. Knowing that he couldn't use his credit card anymore brought me a sense of relief amidst the turmoil. Despite the challenges ahead, I felt empowered and ready to start a new chapter in my life, free from the betrayal and deceit of my husband and Abby's mother. It's easy to imagine that my husband's trip with his mistress was very tense for him. Despite his attempts to reach out, I ignored his calls, citing my severe morning sickness as the reason. 3 days later, I received another call from him, which I reluctantly answered. He was shocked to find the house empty and the lease terminated. "Why is the house empty? What's going on?" he demanded, his anger palpable. "Weren't you supposed to be on a trip for 7 days? Why are you back so soon?" I countered, revealing that I knew about his affair and had taken action accordingly. Realizing that I had found out about the affair and was divorcing him, he was visibly shaken. I ended the call and deleted all his contacts from my phone. With nowhere to go, my husband seemingly sought refuge at Abby's parents' house. There, Abby's mother faced severe reprimands from her husband and parents for her lies and affair. Both she and my husband were forced to sign divorce papers and pay compensation before being kicked out. Since returning to my parents' home, Kate and I have been living freely. My worries disappeared, and my morning sickness subsided, allowing me to return to work after my maternity leave. Kate enjoys spending time with her grandparents after school, and the divorce proceedings went smoothly thanks to the support of my lawyer and the ample evidence I had gathered. In order to secure my ex-husband's income, The divorce proceedings proceeded in my favor, allowing me to move forward with my life without the burden of his betrayal weighing me down. I demanded both compensation and child support payments from my ex-husband and sent a letter to his company, urging them not to let him resign. His boss, who was a married man with children, saw the letter and was furious. He negotiated with the company to deduct the compensation and child support payments from my ex-husband's salary. With his boss keeping a close eye on him, it seemed unlikely that he would be able to quit his job easily. My ex-husband was financially struggling because he had spent too much money on his mistress's lavish lifestyle. Losing his home, he was forced to live in a cheap company dorm, making it even harder for him to quit his job. Meanwhile, Abby and her father found peace. Abby accepted her parents' divorce and seemed to smile more compared to before. She told Kate that she genuinely enjoyed living with her father. Knowing that Abby was living a happy life brought genuine relief to my heart. Soon after, I gave birth to a lovely baby boy. The fact that my ex-husband couldn't hold my beloved son in his arms showed how foolish he had been. When Kate saw her adorable brother, she cheered with delight. Looking at both my beloved daughter and son's faces, I vowed in my heart to raise them well and provide them with the love and support they deserved. My name is Emily, and I'm 44 years old. I work on TV, and my husband, Tom, also 44, has a photography studio. We started dating in high school and got married when we were 26. We were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriend. It felt like we were meant to be together, and we never really thought about being with anyone else. When I was 25, I lost my parents in an accident. It was really tough, but I couldn't imagine going through it without Tom. He was like family to me. After we got married, Tom moved into the house my parents left me, and it felt like I had both my parents and Tom looking out for me. 2 years into our marriage, we had a son, and we were very happy. Tom was great at helping with chores around the house and taking care of our child. He was the ideal husband for a couple like us who both worked. However, my mother-in-law, Jen, didn't like the fact that Tom, a man, did household chores. I want to talk about something that happened 10 years ago because of this. When our son started elementary school, Jen, who lived about 30 minutes away by train, started visiting our house more often. This was because after-school care at elementary school ended earlier than at nursery school, and we needed her help to pick up our son, who couldn't stay home alone yet. Around the same time, my father-in-law, Steve, had retired and was at home more often. Jen had always been a housewife, and Steve couldn't do any household chores. So, whenever Tom naturally started preparing meals in the kitchen, she would say things like, "A man shouldn't be in the kitchen," or "I can't believe this." Our generation would never imagine such a thing. When I first visited Tom's parents' house, she said to me, "Emily, you're going to quit your job, right?" She couldn't let go of the idea that women should be housewives. She also didn't seem to like the fact that I had a glamorous job as a broadcaster. But Tom, who knew me from our high school broadcasting club, always supported my dream of being a broadcaster. Likewise, I supported Tom's dream of being a photographer, and working together was completely natural for us. We managed to get through the tough nursery school days together, and just when we thought elementary school would be easier, we found the after-school care to be less flexible and not very appealing. This situation led to us having to rely more on Jen. Once she started coming into the house, she would make comments like, "The laundry isn't folded properly," or "Isn't this cleaning a bit sloppy? There's dust over there." But Tom would casually reply, "Oh, I'm in charge of the laundry. Is that not okay?" Or "It's fine. No one dies from a bit of dust." Yet she would still complain to Tom behind my back, saying, "Aren't you ashamed to let your husband do the laundry?" Or "It's bad for our reputation." However, since her help was appreciated, I just listened without talking back. On the other hand, Jen had old-fashioned views but liked new things. Unusually for her age, she owned a smartphone. "I'm the only one among my friends who has a phone," she would boast. She used the internet to look up various things, saying, "See, you can do these kinds of things so easily now. And you have to use convenient things." She made good use of it, making reservations at restaurants and using services. At that time, our family relied on a delivery service for our shopping orders, done weekly via paper and delivered. This, too, seemed to displease Jen. She would say things like, "You should just go shopping yourself, and the delivery fee is a waste." But when she discovered that the service could be ordered online, she urged me, "Why don't you do this, Emily? Ordering on paper is so old-fashioned." When Jen would stay until late at night so that Tom and I were preparing dinner, she would say, "I have to go back for Steve's dinner, and he won't eat if he's alone." Then she would leave. Steve really couldn't do any housework at all. "Tom, why is it that you, who grew up in such an environment, are so cooperative with household chores?" I asked Tom once. He replied, "Mom always complained anxiously about Dad not helping with the chores. I decided that when I got married, I would definitely help out to avoid being complained about." So it was a case of learning by negative example. Jen was angry that her husband didn't do housework and found it amusing that her son did. I couldn't understand what would satisfy her, but I guess she just liked to complain. So I tried to keep my distance as much as possible. At that time, I had no idea that Jen was so cornered that she would end up doing something like selling our house without permission. Yes, that summer, I was offered a chance by my company to go on a 2-month business trip overseas to participate in a sports broadcast at the World Championship. It was a rare opportunity, and I felt rewarded for all my efforts. I couldn't pass up this chance, so I immediately consulted with Tom. He was busy with various things and said, "Of course, I want to help, but I'm not sure I can manage to take care of our son John while working." I said uncertainly. Then Jen, who was listening, offered, "Then I'll take care of things at home for a while." Despite my concerns due to past experiences, I had no one else to rely on and decided to entrust my son to Jen. We considered having Tom and John stay at Tom's parents', but it would be difficult to commute to school from there. So Jen decided to come to our house on weekdays. Then I set off on my business trip, successfully completing the sportscasting work and managing to advance my career. Exhausted and relieved to finally return to the U.S., I arrived at my house on a weekday afternoon, a heavy suitcase in hand, only to be greeted by Jen at the entrance as if she had been eagerly waiting for me. As I was about to thank her for taking care of the house during my absence, she uttered something unbelievable. "This house sold for $300,000, so I'm taking the full amount." My tired mind couldn't comprehend what she said for a moment. "This house? Our house?" I asked in disbelief, to which she replied with shining eyes, "Yes, this house." Confused and struggling to make sense of the situation, I replied just that, and Jen burst into laughter, exclaiming, "What are you talking about, Emily? Why would you lie like that? There's a registration certificate in your name." I won't be fooled. She stood there, arms crossed, looking stern. Feeling the conversation was going nowhere, I decided to change the topic to calm her down. "Well, let's set that aside for a moment. Why are you selling it?" I asked. "What belongs to the wife belongs to the husband, and therefore to me. I'm using it to build a new house." Her eyes were bloodshot as she said this, and I started to feel scared. "A new house? Whose exactly?" "Mine and my husband's." "And you guys will live there? This way, Tom won't have to do household chores anymore." "I've been so sorry for him," she continued. "I raised him not to do such things, and I won't allow Tom to do household chores in the future." She said this with a look of truth on her face. As I pieced together the story, it turns out that shortly after we got married, when Tom was in the kitchen, she told him to let me do such things. Tom had replied, "No, this house is Emily's. I have to do at least this much." Apparently, she had misconstrued this to mean that Tom was doing chores because he was living in my house. She always believed that Tom actually didn't want to do household chores and preferred to focus on his work. The idea of a working couple cooperating in household chores just didn't exist in her mind. Furthermore, I later found out that after Steve retired, his pension was less than expected, and he struggled to find reemployment. This led to them feeling insecure about continuing to live in their rented apartment. In desperation, they resorted to such an unthinkable action. "No, this house isn't mine, and Tom thinks it's normal to do housework," I said. But Jen interrupted me. "Lies, all lies. You're just interpreting things to suit yourself." I wanted to say that it was actually her doing that. But I first needed to get the facts straight. "Where did you sell it?" I asked. "To AA Real Estate. They did an easy online assessment, sent them the necessary documents, and they sold it easily. It's a convenient world, isn't it?" she replied. It turns out she found an easy evaluation real estate agent online and requested the sale through them. The buyer was looking for a house in that area. "You won't get such a high price for a house this old anywhere else," they said. "They convinced me it was the right time to sell. That's why you should be grateful." Selling a 20-year-old house for $300,000. "I found a good real estate, didn't I?" she added. I looked up the real estate company online and found a website that seemed right. I tried calling them, but there was no answer. When I asked Jen if she had visited the real estate company at this address, she replied, "No, I didn't go there. You don't need to go do that nowadays." I told her, "First, go to this address tomorrow. If you don't, I won't discuss this any further," and reluctantly she left. The next day, I received a tearful call from her. It's not there. The real estate company doesn't exist at the address. There was only a dilapidated wooden house, seemingly uninhabited," she said, welling up. I was so astonished by her foolishness that I burst into laughter when she returned. She explained that during my absence, she'd have found a house registration certificate in my name and thought she could sell it. So she contracted the real estate agent who shamelessly assured her, "Even if you're not the owner, it's fine if you have that certificate. Some people pass away after all. Just provide us with the family register and signature certificate." Naively believing them, she sent all the requested documents to the agent. When they found a buyer, they asked for a deposit, half of the commission fee. So she transferred $4,800, half of the $9,600 commission on the supposed $300,000 sale. I called the police to explain the situation. 2 officers came to our house. It turns out this kind of internet fraud, posing as real estate agents, has become common. They offer free valuation, ask for official documents, introduce a supposed buyer, take a fee, and then disappear. It was a devious scheme. Recently, with many vacant houses and the ability to fake addresses for document delivery, such frauds have become more common. The fraudsters probably wrote their name on a postbox and received the documents there. Jen was trembling as she answered the police officer's questions. "Let me ask you again, the house deed you sent, it belongs to your daughter-in-law, right?" the officer asked, tilting his head in confusion. "Yes, I did," realizing the gravity of the situation. As the third party got involved, Jen nervously started. "I thought that, well, it belonged to my son." But he was quickly countered by the officer. "Even if it was your son's, isn't it strange trying to sell someone else's house?" he said incredulously. Red-faced, she blurted out, "No, it's not like that. Emily asked me to. She wanted to get the house appraised to sell it," spouting a nonsensical excuse. The officer turned to me and asked, "Is that true?" To which I simply replied, "No, I didn't ask for that." The officer, unsure of whose testimony to believe, eventually seemed to trust me over my visibly distressed Jen. "She says she didn't ask for it. You shouldn't sell things on your own, madame. Normally, this wouldn't even be possible. This is just outrageous," he lectured, and Jen bit her lip, looking down in silence. The officer, now convinced of Jen's rash actions, inquired about the deed registration. "You sent a copy, right?" When she replied in a faint voice, "No, it was the original," the officer was even more astounded, and he shrunk further in dismay, looking at me. The officer asked, "Will you file a theft report?" I answered, "No, that document is invalid now." Actually, this house has already been sold to someone else. When we sold it, we could do so just with the registration identification information. The law had changed, so the deed registration wasn't needed. Indeed, I had received the deed when I inherited the house from my parents, but it was unnecessary when selling the house, so I kept it as a memento. Jen, unaware of this, thought that deed meant I still owned the house. Normally, real estate agents would request or retrieve a copy of the deed themselves for verification, but fraudsters didn't need such details. After all the embarrassment, she looked at me resentfully and muttered, "Why didn't you sell the house?" It's a curse to sell your parents' home. People in flashy jobs are like this. I met her gaze and said, Tom wanted it. He needed a lump sum. Tom? Why? She exclaimed, her face turning even bluer with surprise at that time. Tom wanted to start his dream photography business, but didn't have enough funds. The house was our only significant asset, so we sold it to an acquaintance and rented it back. When I explained everything in one go, Jane's shoulders slumped as she muttered, "So Tom's success now is because you sold the house, Emily." Well, I could say that, but I believe that spouses should stick together through thick and thin. "We're in this together," I replied. Upon hearing this, Jane suddenly began to cry bitterly. "I wanted to work too," she sobbed. "My husband can't do anything, even now after his retirement. He does nothing. What has my life been for?" Her litany of complaints against Tom continued, leaving the police officer struggling to complete the report. Ultimately, the fraud report was filed. But even after 10 years, the culprits have not been caught. It's unlikely that the money will ever be recovered. Following the incident, Steve became vigilant over Jane's actions and took over all financial control, denying her any access to money. Whenever she needed something, she had to request it from him and would be given cash. "It's so suffocating," Jane complained to Tom, who reminded her that she brought it upon herself. Now with no disposable income, she works through senior job listings and currently teaches the elderly how to use smartphones. She's well regarded for her ability to empathize with the struggles of older learners. Steve, perhaps due to his pride, found senior jobs unsuitable and quit soon after starting, providing no income. Nowadays, Jen is busier, often leaving him with household duties as she goes out. Interestingly, he's taken an interest in cooking and is getting quite good at it. The roles in Tom's parents' house have reversed, but both seem to have found new fulfillment. As for me, after my overseas business trip, I successfully climbed the career ladder and now anchor the evening news. Tom's photography studio is thriving, and we've managed to save enough to consider buying back and renovating the family home. We are grateful to our acquaintance for allowing us to keep the house despite the outrageous incident. It worked out well for Tom's parents in the end. Our son is turning 17 and approaching adulthood, so I've shared this story with him as a cautionary tale about internet fraud. However, to preserve his grandparents' dignity, I've kept the part about them trying to sell our house a secret. While I was working, I got an email out of the blue. When I quickly got in touch with him, Greg calmly explained that he had fallen in love with someone else and wanted to start a new life with her. He also said he planned to take the fancy car we bought with a loan in my name. Even though I tried to stop him, he hung up on me and disappeared, leaving me with a huge debt. I never thought something so unfair would happen. I felt lost and didn't know what to do. I'm 35 years old, named Hannah, and my husband Greg is the same age. We have a 10-year-old son named Ryan. Ryan has always been really smart, even when he was young, always reading stuff on the computer and asking for my thoughts on it. Despite not understanding everything, I was amazed by his intelligence. Greg, on the other hand, was always changing jobs and couldn't keep one for long. I worked full-time, worried about our future. But recently, Greg managed to keep a job for 3 years and was earning a steady income. He talked about making memories with us, so we decided to buy a $35,000 camper van. But since Greg couldn't get approval for a loan in his name, I had to take the loan for the car instead. Then, on the day our camper van was supposed to arrive, I got a sudden email from Greg saying he'd graciously take the van since the loan was in my name, leaving me to handle the repayments. Confused, I called him right away to ask what he meant. He explained he'd fallen for someone else and wanted to start a new life with her. He mentioned divorce papers we had discussed before and abruptly ended the call. It was the first time I realized I'd been betrayed by Greg. No matter how many times I tried to reach him, there was no response. I even searched for the divorce papers at home, but they were gone. I was left with a huge debt from the car loan. Despite my efforts to contact Greg, Ryan noticed my distress and asked if something was wrong. After hesitating, I decided to tell him everything. Surprisingly, Ryan didn't seem too upset. He even seemed to have anticipated something like this happening. I knew Ryan must be feeling sad deep down, even though he seemed calm. While silently apologizing to him in my thoughts, I worked hard, trying to push away the awful events from my mind. But my body couldn't hide the truth, and my health gradually declined. On the day of a work training session, I couldn't even stand up and had to take a break. I heard my colleagues' concerned voices, but I couldn't respond before collapsing. When I woke up in the hospital, the doctor told me I needed more tests and admitted me. I felt pathetic, thinking it was just emotional stress, but seeing the IV drip in my arm and the white ceiling, tears flowed naturally. Suddenly, Ryan burst into the room, looking extremely worried. I quickly wiped away my tears as he asked what happened, afraid I was seriously ill. Assuring him I wasn't going to die, I felt a strong determination to get better for his sake. But my condition was worse than I thought, and I was diagnosed with a serious illness. The doctor recommended surgery as soon as possible. Following their advice, I underwent the surgery. When I was discharged a month later, I found a demand letter for the car loan payment in the mailbox. Panic set in as I realized the repayment should have been deducted automatically from my account. Checking my balance, I saw it had plummeted from $20,000 to only $33.90. I was sure Greg was behind this, and I wanted to demand he return the money. Since I can't contact him, I'm unsure what to do. Without the camper van, I can't sell it either. Everything seemed to be getting worse after Greg left, and my spirits sank lower. Seeing me upset by all these misfortunes, Ryan touched my forehead and noticed I looked pale. He asked if I was feeling sick again, though I didn't have a fever. Physically, I was fine, but I explained to him that Greg not only took the car, but also all our saved money. I couldn't work yet due to my health, and now we were left with nothing. Feeling lost, I apologized to Ryan for worrying him, but he encouraged me, saying it wasn't the time to give up. He suggested delivering newspapers and searching the internet for work. His words lifted my spirits, and I resolved to change my mindset and do whatever I could. Surprised by his determination, I asked how we could possibly get the car back from Dad, considering it was in my name. Ryan then suggested an idea that hadn't crossed my mind before. He proposed using his phone to track Greg's whereabouts, mentioning a hike we went on as a family a month ago. I was amazed by his idea and had never imagined such a possibility. With no idea where Greg was, Ryan suggested checking his phone for any clues from our previous family outing. Surprisingly, Ryan, who is usually very reliable, got lost during our hike. Following his suggestion, we bought him a kid's cell phone and installed a GPS app that both Greg and I could access. With this app, I could see where Greg was in real time, and he seemed to be moving around a lot. Concerned that Greg might give vague answers and escape again if we found him, I voiced my worries to Ryan. To my amazement, Ryan smiled and revealed that he had already taken precautions independently while I was in the hospital, achieving something unbelievable. I couldn't believe how smart my child was. Understanding Ryan's plan, I was amazed and agreed to teach Greg a lesson for betraying us. 3 days later, I received a call from Greg asking for help, claiming he was being questioned by the police because of me. Suspicious, I went with Ryan to where Greg was, only to find him at a forest park near our house where camping was allowed. Greg looked bewildered as he was questioned by the police in front of his car. Feeling a mix of emotions, I asked the police to give us a moment as a couple to talk. Greg seemed uncomfortable with the crowd watching, so he urged us to get into the car. Inside, his mistress was sitting cross-legged, glaring at us. However, that didn't matter anymore. I apologized for the inconvenience and thanked Greg for coming. The police showed up because I filed a report about the missing camper van. Greg, thinking that actions between spouses can't be criminal, didn't understand. But the police didn't see it that way. Since we're now strangers due to the divorce, Greg driving a car registered in my name without permission was considered a crime. Ryan, as sharp as ever, figured all this out. Greg tried to defend himself, saying he only borrowed the car, but Ryan wasn't having it. I asked Greg to return the keys to my car, and after some reluctance, he handed them over. Then Ryan surprised us all by asking Greg why he abandoned his family to be with this woman. Greg was caught off guard and didn't have a good answer. His mistress arrogantly chimed in, claiming she was more attractive than me, and that Greg chose her over his family. Ryan shut her down sternly, demanding answers from his dad. Greg finally admitted that the woman, Mandy, had joined his company 3 months ago. They were attracted to each other at the welcome party for new employees, and later it was discovered that Mandy was pregnant. Greg decided to start a new life with her, leaving us behind. As for why he took the camper van, he explained that he quit his job and planned to sell the car for money. However, since it seemed like we were using it quite a bit, he thought it would be a waste to sell it right away, so they decided to go on a trip. I was surprised to learn all this from Ryan. After he got lost, we bought him a kid's cell phone with a GPS app as a precaution. We installed it on Greg's phone too, so I knew where he was all this time. Ryan confessed that he pretended to get lost during our hike because he wanted a cell phone. I was amazed at his strategic thinking and suspected something was off with Greg, so I came up with this plan to monitor his actions. Facing the truth revealed by Ryan, Greg was speechless. It was pitiful to see an adult like him unable to offer any rebuttal. In contrast, seeing Ryan, only 10 years old, but able to think and speak his mind firmly, gave me a sense of strength as a mother. I felt determined not to lose, especially in settling things properly. I demanded that Greg return the $20,000 he withdrew from my account, which we had saved little by little since I was single. Greg argued that he didn't have to return it since it was joint property, but I was appalled to hear that the money had been squandered by him and his mistress. It was the moment I felt relieved about divorcing him. So that's how it is. But if you stole and used the car and my money, that's going to be a serious crime. Just because I sent the police away doesn't mean it's not their business anymore, right? I only said we would talk. I have no intention of withdrawing the complaint. I must add the theft of my money to the report. Mom, should I call the police now? I can do it with just one button on my phone, Ryan asked. Mandy, Greg's mistress, had been watching our conversation but quickly tried to get out of the camper van. Suddenly, she let out a scream that echoed around. Outside the car door, Mandy's parents were standing, their faces red with anger, about to explode in fury. Startled, Mandy stepped back as her parents yelled at her. I'm sorry, don't be so angry. But why are you here, Mom and Dad? Mandy stammered. I called your parents beforehand, I explained. What? Why? Mandy was shocked. The truth was, during my hospital stay, Ryan had visited Greg's office and tearfully told them, my dad left the house with a woman we don't know, and my mom collapsed. Seeing Ryan's sorrowful state, the people at Greg's office suspected Mandy, who had left the company with Greg, and gave Ryan her parents' address. Greg and Mandy had been overly friendly at the office, and there were photos showing them together at the welcome party for new employees, looking like a couple. After learning from the office people that Greg commuted from his parents' house, I went there with his photo. His parents came out when I visited, and I told them everything that had happened. So today I contacted Mandy's parents and asked them to wait nearby for a while. How could you do this to me? That's the worst. I don't want to hear that from you. That's my line, Mandy retorted. By the way, your stomach seems quite big. When is the baby due? In 3 months, Mandy replied. What? Wait a minute, that doesn't add up with when you met my husband. You two met only 3 months ago, right? What's going on? Greg questioned, bewildered. It's not time for the baby to be born yet, I added. Hearing this for the first time, Greg stared at Mandy, eyes wide. Wait, what does that mean? Are you stupid? Don't you get it? It takes about 9 months from conception to birth, which means the child she's carrying isn't yours. You're so foolish. What do you mean, Mandy? Have you been deceiving me? Greg's voice rose with anger. I almost got away with it. Can't help it now that I'm caught. You're so naive. You can't see through lies at all. Really a fool, Mandy sneered. Don't mock me. My whole life is ruined because of you. What were you thinking? Greg erupted. Greg and Mandy started an ugly argument, but nobody intervened, letting them have it out. Meanwhile, we contacted the police again to explain the situation. As it began to get dark, the forest park was brightly lit by the red lights of the police cars. No, really, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I'm sorry. I'll work hard and never cheat again, Mandy finally admitted. So please, just don't arrest me, Dad. People don't change that easily, especially lazy people like you, Greg pleaded. Exactly. Ryan's right. I can't trust you at all. Reflect on your actions and pay for your crimes at the police station, I responded firmly. If I get arrested, I won't be able to pay back the money. Is that okay with you? Greg asked. I don't mind. Pay me back after you've atoned for your sins. Take your time. Don't worry. I've already found you a place to work, I assured him. Let's see, there's Ryan's child support plus the $220,000 you stole from me. I'm not sure how much it will all add up to, but you'll work and pay it all back, I added sternly. I had one last thing to say to Mandy the mistress. You might think you're just an onlooker, but don't forget you're an accomplice to Greg's theft. Be prepared for that, I warned her. When I told them that Mandy would have to pay if Greg couldn't return the stolen money, she shivered in fear. Mandy asked her parents for help, but they refused, saying, We disown a daughter who causes trouble for others. Thus, Greg and Mandy were taken away in a police car together, thanks to Ryan's smart strategy. We were able to punish Greg and his mistress, Mandy. Though they were released from detention soon after, they faced a hefty payment to me. Through a lawyer, I claimed $20,000 in damages. Additionally, I made Greg agree to pay $500 a month in child support for Ryan. I introduced Greg to a subcontracting factory of the company I work for. The support and other charges I claimed from Greg would be deducted from his salary and paid into my account. I also sold the camper van and was freed from the auto loan. Since then, my health has improved remarkably, and I am now energetically committed to my job. Ryan has been actively helping with household chores and errands. I want to keep moving forward strongly so that Ryan can pursue the path he loves without giving up. After my brother got married and moved out, it's just been me and my mom living together. I've been feeling frustrated with her lately, but I'm grateful for how she raised me, so I can't just ignore her. I never thought she would treat me like this. Even though I've been helping her out with money, she still kicked me out of the house. It was all because of my brother and his wife. I'm really angry with them for what they did. I'm going to make them regret it. My name is Emily, and I'm 25 years old. My dad died a few years ago, and my brother Tom, who's 10 years older than me, left after getting married. So now it's just me and my mom. Honestly, I don't like living with her. Once I started working, she stopped her part-time job and just lounged around at home. Plus, she treats me like her maid, always asking me to do things for her. She'd say things like, Emily, is dinner ready yet? Or, I need an extra $200 this month. It feels like the list of demands never ends. Some people might say I should just move out if I'm so unhappy. And I've thought about it many times. My mom's been my rock ever since my dad passed away. She raised me all on her own, while my brother Tom moved away after he got married. His wife, Catherine, doesn't want to live with mom, so I can't rely on him much. As her daughter, I never even considered leaving her behind. But hey, I'm human too. Just because she's my real mom doesn't mean I have to put up with everything. Today, I got a bit upset and accidentally raised my voice at her. I noticed some money missing from my wallet and asked if she took it. She got defensive, saying she just borrowed it for clothes. But she never pays me back for the money she takes without asking. Every time I try to talk to her about it, she brings up how she raised me all by herself and how I owe everything to her. It's frustrating. I know she worked hard for me, and I appreciate it, but I'm not a kid anymore. I have a good job and enough money. Even if I gave her $2,000 every month, it wouldn't change my lifestyle much. I always felt like I couldn't let my mom have her way forever. Then, one day after work, I came home to find Tom and Catherine there. I hadn't seen them since Dad's funeral, and we hadn't kept in touch. Tom, being his usual insensitive self, started making snide remarks about me. I've always felt like he looked down on me and teased me, even when we were kids. "Why are you here, Tom?" I asked. "Why do I need a reason to visit my parents' house?" he replied. "But this apartment is mine. We had to sell our family home after Dad passed away, and I'm the one renting this place." Catherine, Tom's wife, joined in, making a comment about how uptight I am and how I'll never get married with that attitude. She said it without any remorse, just like Tom. I've never really liked either of them. After dinner, I escaped to my room. My mom, probably happy to see Tom after so long, chatted away with them smiling. It felt like they occasionally gossiped about me. Since that day, Tom and Catherine started coming over more often. And what really bothers me is that they act like this is their home. They're way too comfortable in my apartment. "Hey, Tom, what's going on? This is my place, you know." "What about it? What does my job have to do with you?" "I'm here because I'm worried about Mom and want to visit her often. You never bothered to reach out since Dad's funeral. It's none of your business. And speaking of business, I'm hungry. Cook something and do it quick. What's with this guy? Seriously, this is my place. Why are they lounging around like they own it? I want to eat a delicious cake. Emily, buy me one." And even my mom joins in. "Buy it on your way back from work today, all right? So hurry up and go get it for us, you lazy girl." Catherine, who used to avoid my mom, suddenly seems to be getting along with her very well. As for Tom, he's projecting this "I'm the eldest son" vibe, and Catherine's playing along as the eldest son's wife, acting all concerned about Mom. But I can tell they're up to something. I'm not sure what yet, but I'm certain it's not good. After a few days, their plan finally becomes clear. "Emily, I've had it living with you. I've decided to end this." I was doing some chores on my day off when my mom suddenly said this. "What do you mean by that exactly? I can't stand living with someone as slow, lazy, and unattractive as you anymore." "What are you talking about? Don't you get it? I've made up my mind. I'm going to live with Tom and Catherine." "You're going to live with Tom and Catherine?" I was so shocked by this unexpected statement from my mom that I repeated what she said without realizing the implications. I couldn't believe what was happening. My brother, who always hated the idea of living with my mother, suddenly wants to live with her. What on earth is happening? Just then, Tom and Catherine conveniently arrived. "Tom, what's going on? You never reached out to us before, and you always said you'd never live with Mom, right? What's the problem?" "It's only natural for the eldest son to live with his own mother, isn't it?" Tom said, looking down on me with a sense of superiority. "That's not what I'm saying. But then it's fine for Mom to live with us, right?" I retorted. "Are you serious?" Even Catherine was against living together. "Why the sudden change? You're so annoying. Anyway, Mom's decided to live with us. We don't need you anymore. Just leave." "Wait, leave? After all this time, when you left everything about Mom up to me?" I couldn't help but feel disgusted with my brother, who always spoke so arrogantly. However, it became clear that Tom and Catherine were up to something no good. Although my mother always had a sharp tongue, she's still my precious parent. Besides, I didn't want to get involved in any trouble later on, so I decided to confront my mother. Mom, isn't it obvious that something's going on? After all, Tom and his wife never once contacted us before. What are you talking about? If anyone's acting strange, it's you, isn't it? My mom replied. Huh, Mom, those who just leech off their parents should just leave, I said, feeling hurt. The moment she said that, any affection I had left for my mother vanished instantly. After all the support I've given and taking care of her, how dare she say something like that to her own daughter? I couldn't believe they were mocking me like this, especially after all the years I've supported them. Well, they'll regret it soon enough. After a week, they'll experience hell, so they better enjoy this moment. I started planning my revenge on them. But before I leave, I need to make one thing clear. I'm leaving. Now, I declared firmly to my brother, his wife, and my mother. The three of them began chatting, smirking at each other. Emily, you're finally leaving the house. Mom, you must be so happy, Tom said. I truly am. Now I can live with Tom and Catherine. I'm on top of the world. From now on, I'll be the one taking care of Mom, my mother replied. Thank you, Tom. I'm also happy that I can live with my beloved mother-in-law from now on. Oh, thank you too, Catherine, Tom's wife chimed in. To be honest, I struggled not to laugh at that moment. But I couldn't let them think I had any leeway to execute my revenge perfectly. It's best to lay low for now. From that day on, my brother and his wife seemed to be constantly in my apartment. As for me, it's as if I'm invisible to them, or rather, they treated me as if I never existed in the first place. However, this was advantageous for me because I wasn't bothered at all while preparing to move out. A week later, it was my moving day. Today is the day we part ways, Emily. We'll be taking care of Mom from now on, so you can live without any worries, Tom said casually. Thank you. I'm leaving Mom in your hands, okay? I replied. After saying this, Tom seemed somewhat unsatisfied with my response. Then my mother approached. I hope you get married soon, Emily. It'd be a shame to remain single for the rest of your life, wouldn't it? You know, the whole society would call a person like you a loser, my mother said. At her words, Tom and his wife snickered. I responded calmly, That's true. From now on, I've decided to live just for myself. I mean, I no longer have to take care of you now, right? Just stop talking and get out. I never asked you to look after me. I was going to leave quickly anyway. Oh, seems like they're here, I said, hearing the doorbell ring. I headed to the entrance. It was the movers from the moving company I had scheduled for today. After having them carry out all the belongings from my room, I pointed to the living room and told the movers, Oh, and please move all the appliances and furniture in these rooms too. The dumbfounded voices of the three harmonized perfectly. They were completely confused at what was happening. That TV, the fridge, the microwave. Oh, and this cleaning robot too. Also, the sofa, dining table, and the bed. Please move everything, I instructed. Then my mother began to argue. What? What are you thinking? Stop this immediately. What do you mean? Are you doing something strange? Don't play dumb. Taking all the appliances and furniture from this house? Have you lost your mind? My brother, whose face was as red as a tomato, approached me aggressively. Yo, listen to Mom. How do you expect us to live without any furniture or appliances? You have no right to take everything. Leave everything here and just go. My mother and brother were squawking in front of me. Thinking I shouldn't waste any more time, I clarified the situation to the two. Hey, are you getting the wrong idea or something? Everything in this apartment, including the apartment itself and all of its appliances and furniture, are all mine. You know this is Mom's place, right? Don't mess with me. All the furniture and appliances were bought using the inheritance from Dad, weren't they? I clarified. I knew it. He's just an idiot. As I had anticipated, He misunderstood and believed that my mother was financing everything in my apartment. He assumed that she had received a lot of inheritance from my father and had cleverly convinced them to live with her. Tom, aren't you misunderstanding something? I bought everything in here. I've been giving Mom a monthly support of $2,000, you know. Thus, I've lost. You just want to live with Mom, don't you? Someday I'll inherit Dad's inheritance, I explained. Huh? What are you talking about? Mom used up all of Dad's inheritance a long time ago, I added. Tom nervously glanced at our mother. She was looking down, her face pale. Mom, please explain. You told us you bought all the appliances in here, Tom demanded. Well, I was just trying to look good, my mother confessed. Huh? What do you mean by that? We only moved in with you because we thought there was an inheritance from Dad. If there's no inheritance, what's the point of living together? Tom exclaimed. Wait, what are you saying? Didn't you say you take care of me because you're the eldest son? Tom asked. I was just trying to be nice. I lied so that we can live together, my mother admitted. Upon learning that there was no remaining inheritance, Tom was furious, and my mother was deeply shaken by the realization that the kindness shown by Tom and his wife was all fake. What a hopeless family, huh? My mother should have suspected something when Tom and his wife, who hadn't been in touch for a while, suddenly proposed living together, I thought to myself. As I gave the two cold looks, Tom's wife seemed to have an idea and spoke up. I've got it. It would be great if Emily could live with us again. To this, my mother and Tom both agreed. That's right, Emily. You should live with us after all, Tom insisted. Yes, Emily, I really do need you, my mother added. Seeing the drastic change in their attitude as they began speaking for their own convenience, I quickly dismissed them right away. What are you even saying? Don't make me laugh. There's no way I'd live with trashy people like you. I've decided to live only for myself from now on, I declared firmly. Whatever happens to you all, I couldn't care less. But why don't you all just happily ruin your lives together? I remarked coldly. The three of them, completely drained of energy, sat down on the spot as if their knees gave away. All three of them had empty eyes. Goodbye. Do your best as a family, I said as I closed the front door. In just another 2 weeks, the lease for the apartment would end because it's under my name. They'll probably be forced out to leave when the lease is up. Well, it's none of my business anymore. About a week after I successfully moved, as expected, I received a call from my mother asking for help. Emily, please. I can't live properly like this. Come back. There's no way I'm coming back. Why don't you have that idiotic couple take care of you? I retorted. Actually, it seems they quit their work and moved here thinking I still had your father's inheritance, my mother confessed. They really are terrible people, aren't they? I don't even feel like helping out at all. I don't need a couple who only thinks about money anymore. All I have is you, Emily, she pleaded. Mom, I'm busy. Can I hang up now, please? I said, cutting her off. Emily, help me, she begged. I hung up the call before she could finish and blocked her number. I no longer felt the urge to help my mother, especially not now. Rumor has it that my mother and Tom's family got evicted from the apartment after that incident. They ended up spending all of Tom's savings to move into a shabby apartment. Apparently, my mother doesn't work, and she argues with Catherine almost every day. Tom is the only one who has a job, working from dawn till dusk just to make ends meet. As for me, after distancing myself from my mother, I've been able to save more money and use it for my own needs. After all these sacrifices I've made in the past, I want to lead a life that makes me happy from now on. After my father's funeral, my mother wasted no time before launching into her plans. I'm going to take all of Dad's $184,000 inheritance now that caregiving is over. You're useless to me, haha. Please leave right now, she said, her words cutting sharply. I couldn't believe she'd say something so callous right after the funeral. She seemed utterly hopeless. But I had already prepared for this moment long before my father's passing. With a confident smile, I replied, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this. My name is Susan, and I'm 28 years old, still living in my parents' house." My father was the light in my life, always there for me despite his busy schedule. He ran a company but always made time for family dinners and my school events. His kindness meant the world to me. My mother, on the other hand, was a different story. She never showed much affection, especially when I was young. Living with my paternal grandparents under the same roof didn't make things easier. My mother often vented her frustrations when my father or grandparents weren't around, directing her anger towards me. My grandmother, though kind on the surface, had her moments of cruelty, especially towards my mother. She would often make hurtful remarks, reflecting disappointment in not having a boy to carry on the family legacy. Despite my efforts to win my mother's approval through academic success and even winning swimming competitions, her criticism only grew worse. She'd remark about my looks, comparing me unfavorably to my father, whom she adored. My mother's beauty and past as a model seemed incongruous with her behavior. Marrying my father for his wealth didn't bring her the life of luxury she expected, especially with my grandparents in the picture. Things worsened after my grandparents passed away, leaving my mother unchecked. She squandered my father's money on parties, neglecting both me and the household chores. Meanwhile, my father was focused on rebuilding his company's stock value, leaving me feeling isolated and lonely. But despite it all, I had learned to navigate the deceitful world of adults like my mother from a young age. Now, with my father gone, I was prepared to stand up for myself and claim what was rightfully mine. But despite my resolve, I couldn't bring myself to confront my father about my mother's behavior. I understood how hard he was working and felt that saying more would only burden him further. My aspirations remained clear. I aimed to attend a prestigious university and eventually join and support my father's company. In my dreams, I even envisioned taking over the business someday. I had no desire to live off someone else's efforts like my mother, content with a life of ease without any personal contribution. So I dedicated myself to hard work, steadily advancing towards my goals. As my father's business stabilized, he was thrilled to hear about my ambitions to join him. He allowed me to intern at his company during my third year of university. The employees were patient and kind, teaching me the intricacies of the business. After graduation, I officially joined the company as a full-time employee. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mother remained distant. I found solace in my work, immersing myself in the challenges of the corporate world. Despite being more strict and commanding in the office, my father always showed me kindness and concern, switching effortlessly between the roles of boss and father. As the years passed, I continued to thrive in my role within the company. However, life took a sudden turn when my father suffered a severe leg injury in an accident. He required extensive caregiving, and I couldn't trust anyone but myself to provide it. Reluctantly, I returned home to care for him, setting aside my feelings towards my mother for the sake of my father's well-being. Despite my mother's hurtful words, I chose to brush them off. My focus remained on caring for my father while juggling responsibilities at the company. Even confined to a wheelchair, my father's mind remained sharp, and he continued to lead the company, getting instructions remotely and attending meetings only when absolutely necessary. During this time, my father expressed his gratitude and apologized for the trouble I was going through. "It's fine, Dad," I reassured him. "I still have so much to learn from you." As I cared for him, my father imparted invaluable lessons in management, seemingly aware of his declining health. When we eventually learned he had cancer with only a year left to live, I was devastated. Spending even more time with him became my priority, visiting him daily when he was hospitalized. As his condition worsened, my father made a heartfelt request to entrust the company to me. "I've taught you a lot, Susan," he said. "I trust you with the company. I'm counting on you for everything after I'm gone." I promised to fulfill his wish to protect both him and the legacy of the company. A week later, he passed away, surrounded by loved ones and company employees who had become like family. Notably absent was my mother, who hadn't visited him once during his illness. Her indifference appalled me, but I chose not to confront her at the funeral, knowing it would be futile. In the midst of my grief, one thought lingered. I would uphold my promise to my father, to safeguard the company he had worked so hard to build. And if my mother dared to shed crocodile tears, I wouldn't hesitate to put her in her place. Despite my mother's unchanged demeanor, she boldly pretended to mourn in front of my father's friends. It was evident, however, that her true feelings were far from sorrow. She was likely pleased by his demise. The allure of my father's substantial inheritance seemed to be her sole source of satisfaction in the wake of his passing. Immediately after the funeral, she wasted no time in approaching me with her demands. I'm going to take all of Dad's $1,984,000 inheritance now that caregiving is over. You're useless to me, haha. Please leave right now, she declared. I couldn't believe she would be so brazen as to demand this immediately after the funeral. But I was already prepared for her audaciousness. With a smile plastered on my face, I calmly responded, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this." Her surprise was evident, but I remained unfazed as I packed only the essentials, ready to move out. "I'm going to sell all my stuff," I informed her. "You can do whatever you want with this house and the $1,984,000 inheritance. I don't need anything else. I'll live and enjoy life to the fullest." Her mocking laughter only fueled my determination as I ignored her and left soon after. A month later, she bombarded me with calls, questioning why I had left the house. Reluctantly, I answered, "What do you mean by this? Why do I have to leave the house?" she demanded. I couldn't resist teasing her a little. "Oh, that's because I inherited the house," I replied casually. "Dad left the house to me, not you. I sold it for about $1 billion. Her disbelief was palpable. "$1 billion? It sold for that much," she exclaimed. But her shock didn't sway me. "Well, it doesn't matter," I assured her. "I have $1,984,000 inheritance." With that, I ended the call, content in my newfound independence and freedom from her manipulative grasp. My mother's confusion about the inheritance was swiftly met with a reality check. "Of course you haven't received $1,984,000 yet. You're a stranger now," I explained bluntly. "Remember when you fought with Dad and thrust the divorce papers at him? Well, Dad kept those papers for any future eventuality. Before he passed, he used them to officially divorce you, ensuring you won't get a single dollar of the inheritance." Her shock was evident as she realized her extravagant spending and reliance on the inheritance had come to naught. "Oh dear, still so extravagant with money, huh? But that's over now. You'll have to work for the rest of your life," I informed her matter-of-factly. Her response was predictable, demanding that I provide for her and secure her a new house and executive position in the company. I scoffed at her audacity. "Did you ever do anything for me? Don't conveniently bring up our parent-child relationship now. I don't think of you as my mother anymore. Our bond is severed. So please live your life however you like." With that, I cut off contact, setting her number to reject calls, and informing the company reception to report her if she showed up. Meanwhile, my dedication to my work at my father's company remained unwavering. I focused on protecting his legacy and fostering innovation, determined to lead the company to new heights. While my mother spiraled into debt, forced to work part-time jobs to pay off her bills, I found fulfillment in my work. Challenging as it was, I thrived on the opportunity to implement new ideas and strategies, different from my father's, while keeping my curiosity alive. Moving forward, I aim to dedicate myself even further to my work, striving to become a respected business leader and continue the legacy my father had entrusted to me. My husband suddenly left me with a lot of money to pay back, and he's nowhere to be found. I tried calling him, but he's not responding. I don't know what to do because I can't afford to pay back such a big debt. Luckily, my daughter, Kate, cheered me up. "I'm 35 years old, and I work part-time while taking care of the house. Kate's dad, Ruggin, is missing, and we're a family of 3. I met Rogan at a party where I was feeling nervous, but he made me feel better by talking to me. We exchanged numbers and started dating. When I told my sister, Talia, about Rogan, she couldn't believe it because I'm usually quiet and don't go to parties. Talia was surprised that I found a boyfriend at a party and thought I'd date someone from work. When I showed her a picture of Rogan, she thought he was handsome. After catching up with Talia, we said goodbye for the day. Talia, who's still single, seems content with her relaxed life and isn't really looking for a boyfriend or marriage. While I understand her perspective, I'm focused on building a future with Rogan. I imagine us getting married and having children, which would be amazing. As I headed home, I couldn't help but smile. A few years later, Rogan and I did get married. I'll never forget the overwhelming emotions when he proposed and our move to a new apartment. Living together felt surreal at first, but we cherished every moment, whether it was sharing meals, snuggling under the same blanket, or enjoying our days off together. Eventually, we were blessed with a beautiful baby girl named Rhea. Her birth brought immense joy into our lives, and I left my job to fully embrace motherhood. Rogan was always supportive, helping with household chores and taking care of Rhea so I could rest. I'm grateful to have married such a wonderful person, and living with Rogan and Rhea has been a heartwarming experience. A few years later, I found myself deeply regretting marrying Rogan. After Rhea was born, Rogan suddenly quit his job without consulting me. He explained that he had been having problems with his new boss, which had taken a toll on his mental health. While I understood his reasons, I was upset that he hadn't discussed it with me first. Our family depended on his salary, and such a big decision should have been made together. Rogan's vague responses to my concerns didn't ease my worries, but I had to trust him. Thankfully, he found a new job quickly, which was a relief. I considered working too, but I wanted to be there for Rhea while she was still young. However, Rogan seemed different after starting his new job. He brushed off my questions about how things were going, assuring me that everything was fine, but his behavior made me uneasy. But I felt that pushing him further might upset him, so I handed Rhea to him and went to take a bath. A few days later, Rogan came home looking dejected. As I tried to ask him what had happened, memories of his previous sudden resignation flashed through my mind. Did he quit his job again so soon? Sadly, my suspicions seemed to be right. I quit my job, he said. I just couldn't get along with the people there. I couldn't stand being constantly directed by someone much younger than me. I just couldn't bear it anymore. I see, I replied, trying to stay calm. But we'll get through this. We'll find another job. I'll help in any way I can. Suddenly, Rogan's expression changed, and he raised his voice at me. Hey, what's with that look? You don't like that I quit? You're able to eat because I work. You just stay at home and you're acting all high and mighty. With that, he threw his bag onto the living room table. I was stunned. Rogan had never spoken to me like this before. Unable to contain his anger, he grabbed a whiskey from the fridge and downed it in one gulp. I felt terrified. I've always been grateful to him and tried to be supportive as much as possible. But his sudden outburst created a rift in our relationship. Since then, Rogan has been in a cycle of finding and quitting jobs. We've lived in uncertainty, experiencing many anxious days. At first, I tried to understand his feelings and said nothing. Given the circumstances, I couldn't stay silent any longer. You're annoying, I told Rogan. If you have complaints, then you work and earn money. You rely too much on me. But there's Rhea to consider, so what's your point? Lately, Rogan had been losing interest in Rhea and seemed to be avoiding her. When Rhea was born, he took great care of her and was genuinely happy. But observing him now, he felt like a completely different person. No matter how much I pleaded, Rogan showed no interest in continuing his work. Eventually, I decided to entrust Rhea to Talia and started working on my own. I'm really sorry for having to leave her with you, I said to Talia. It's okay. Rhea and I will wait together, she reassured me. Rhea, who had just started attending kindergarten, wasn't a major concern when it came to leaving her with someone. Part of it was because I trusted Talia to take care of her. But Ria was also remarkably mature and calm for her age. She showed interest in newspapers, read them on her own, and could even write long and somewhat complex sentences. Ria had a quiet disposition and was exceptionally composed for her age. When she started kindergarten, I was concerned about whether she'd be able to make friends and communicate effectively with others besides me. However, it turned out I didn't need to worry. Ria made many friends in kindergarten and enjoyed her time there. As a parent, that was the most heartwarming thing to witness. Given the situation, I felt it would be no problem for me to work outside the home. When I started looking for a job, I found one quicker than expected. Thus, I began working full-time. The pay was better than I had anticipated, so even if Rogan quit his job, our finances would probably stabilize. Thankfully, the work environment was also pleasant, despite the busy days. I enjoyed working. A few years after I began working, Rogan finally found a stable job. It seemed like he might have finally found a workplace that satisfied him. Upon learning this, I felt a profound sense of relief. Over time, Rogan's demeanor started to brighten, and he seemed to return to the man I knew in the early days of our marriage. He became considerate of the challenges I faced juggling work and family, often asking, "Has it been tough? Aren't you tired?" I was a bit taken aback by this transformation. Perhaps job stability had given Rogan peace of mind. Ryan was growing up healthily, and Rogan started acting like a caring father to her once again. Seeing Raya play joyfully with Rogan always warmed my heart. Still, the thought of returning to the way things were before made me anxious about leaving my job. Therefore, I continued to rely on Talia for childcare. "How's Raya? Is she looking well?" I asked Talia one day. "Don't worry, she's playing happily," Talia reassured me. As long as Ria was doing well, I could be at ease. I'd probably continue to depend on Talia. I had been considering treating Talia to something she liked as a token of my appreciation. Several years went by, and Ria was now in the 3rd grade of elementary school. She attended school every day with great enthusiasm. The family's bond was just like before, harmonious and loving. I wondered what had caused the previous rift between Rogan and me. Our home life felt so stable, almost as if the past problems had been forgotten. Then one day, Rogan made a suggestion. "Ever think about getting a new car?" "A new car?" "Yeah, our current one is good, but I think it's reaching the end of its life. If it's becoming a hassle to maintain," Rogan remarked. Indeed, the car we were using had been purchased quite a while ago, and over the years, issues increased, and the repair costs started to pile up. "You might be right. Maybe we should consider a new car," I agreed. "Yes, I knew you'd agree. By the way, I've already got some catalogs pulled ready," Rogan said eagerly. I didn't expect him to be this eager about replacing the car. I was a bit surprised, but we started looking through the catalogs together. "Ria, come here. Which car do you want to ride in? Let's decide together." Rogan called Ria over, and the 3 of us enjoyed flipping through the car catalogs together. However, I couldn't have imagined that this day would mark the beginning of an unexpected turn of events. A few months later, the new car that the 3 of us chose was delivered. The car we bought was a brand new model costing over $155,000. The loan was under my name. Generally, people would expect Rogan's name on the loan, but considering his unstable work history, we were concerned about being rejected. I was determined to work even harder from now on and pay off the loan. I was sure Rogan felt the same way, that's what I believed. But my hopes were shattered in an instant. Rogan stopped coming home. He disappeared along with the newly purchased car. Could it be that Rogan got involved in some kind of trouble? What should I do? At that moment, my cell phone rang. The call was from Rogan. "Hello," I answered, my voice filled with concern. "Rogan, what are you doing? Where are you now? You disappeared all of a sudden, and the new car is gone. What happened? Did you get caught up in some trouble?" I tried to convey how I had worried every day until then, but Rogan laughed at my concerns and said something unbelievable. Actually, I found a new lover. She's more important to me than you, he said bluntly, leaving me stunned and devastated. I've fallen in love with someone else. I've already taken care of the divorce notice. I'd appreciate it if you stopped getting involved. Rogan's voice echoed in my ears. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The mention of a divorce notice shocked me to my core. However, a memory of a discussion we had during a big fight resurfaced. Submitting the application to the court meant that both parties agreed to the divorce. I deeply regretted letting my emotions take control at that time. Oh, by the way, I have a debt. I'm counting on you to repay it, Rogan added casually. What? How much debt are we talking about? I asked, feeling overwhelmed. I think $200,000, give or take. I'm leaving all the repayments to you, Rogan replied before abruptly hanging up the phone. I never thought something like this would happen to me. Were all of his kind smiles in the past just lies? As these thoughts crossed my mind, I could feel the strength drain from my body. Mom, what happened? Raya rushed over, looking concerned. It's okay, honey. Thank you. I tried to put on a brave face, but inside, I was filled with anxiety. How will I manage our life now with such a massive debt looming over us? The thought of the $200,000 made me feel suffocated. On top of that, there was still the car loan to think about. In a state of panic, I checked my bank balance. I searched the closet, drawers, kitchen, bedroom, everywhere. But my ATM card was nowhere to be found. Frantically, I launched my bank app on my smartphone. To my horror, the account balance had significantly decreased. Of course, I had no memory of withdrawing such an amount. Rogan was the only suspect. I tried to contact him, but of course, there was no response. With my mind going blank, I decided to focus on earning money. I kept this a secret from Talia to avoid unnecessary worry, and I also kept it from young Rhea. A few weeks after Rogan disappeared, I lost consciousness at work. When I came to, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Where am I? I asked, feeling disoriented. Kate, are you awake? Talia entered the room with a shaken expression, Raya standing beside her. It seemed I had fainted due to extreme stress. I was told that I needed to be hospitalized for several days for detailed examinations. Hospitalized. What should I do? I wondered aloud. After you're discharged, let's talk about Rogan, Raya said suddenly. I was surprised to find out that Raya knew the truth. When it was time for my discharge, I felt a bit down, fearing Talia might point out that I wasn't supposed to let her know about it. Then, the next day, various tests were conducted. The results revealed that my poor health was due to cancer. Fortunately, it was still in the early stages, and there was hope for recovery through surgery. Although the surgery went well, returning to work immediately seemed impossible. I had no savings and medical bills were piling up. During these challenging times, Talia and Rhea became my pillars of support. When Rhea explained the situation with Rogan and my current state to Talia, she was even more furious than I had anticipated. Talia tried to locate Rogan with a plan to make him repay the debt and medical bills, but his whereabouts remained unknown. We don't have any leads on Rogan's current location. What do we do? I asked in frustration. It was then that Talia came up with a suggestion. The car that's under your name. Rogan has it, right? How about we try to get it back? Is that really possible? I asked in surprise. Talia shared more information. Actually, I found out where Rogan is currently working. Surprisingly, he seems to be working for a different company inside the building where I work. Though I usually opt for remote work, I occasionally visit the office and have reportedly seen him there. Knowing this, we can move forward with our plan. Let's go to Rogan's place right away, I said eagerly, wanting to confront him immediately. But Talia stopped me. Don't rush. We need a solid plan, not just a hasty approach. That's right, a plan, Raya chimed in. Both of them exchanged smiles, and I couldn't grasp the profound implications behind their demeanor. Watching them silently, Rhea beamed and reassured me, saying, "Don't worry, everything's set up." What kind of scheme had they hatched? They didn't provide the specifics, but everything became clear a month later. While at Talia's house, there was a sudden incoming call. Checking the caller ID, it was from Rogan. Initially, I ignored the call, but it kept coming in repeatedly. Something must have happened. Gathering my courage, I answered, and Rogan pleaded in a frantic voice, "Hey, help me out, please. I'll explain everything later. Just get here now. I'm about to be arrested." Rogan shared his current location and quickly ended the call. Having overheard the conversation, Talia and Rhea finally revealed the turn of events. Actually, we reported the car as stolen, and the idea was Rhea's. Impressive, right? Rhea blushed and looked down, filled with gratitude. I expressed my heartfelt appreciation for their ingenuity and determination. I expressed my heartfelt thanks to Talia and Rhea for their incredible support and hurried to the place where Rogan was waiting. The park he specified was surprisingly close to my home. There were police officers gathered around Rogan, and he seemed to be interrogated about something. We hurriedly approached Rogan's vicinity. First, we explained the situation to the police officers and had them leave. Afterward, Rogan ushered us into his car and began narrating the events that led to this. Glancing inside the car, I noticed a confident-looking woman sitting boldly in the passenger seat, her legs crossed. She stared at us with a cold gaze. "Thanks for coming. But why did the police come to me?" Rogan asked, puzzled. He had been surrounded and questioned by the police, yet he didn't seem to have heard anything they said. I was so dumbfounded that I couldn't find words, because I reported the car as stolen. "After all, that car is mine," I finally managed to say. "What? We're divorced, so we have no current ties." Thus, the current situation paints a picture of Rogan as unauthorized, using another person's car. Reporting it stolen was the natural course of action, Talia explained. Rhea furthered the conversation with Rogan, who was visibly shaken. "Dad, why did you leave us behind? Why won't you pay back the money yourself? Explain." Rogan let out a sigh and looked at us with an exasperated expression, but he remained silent. "If you're just going to remain silent, I'll report it to the police. Do you realize that using my name without permission is a crime?" I warned. Hearing this, Rogan began to talk bit by bit. He mentioned his mistress, Lily. Apparently, she recently joined the company where Rogan works, and they connected during a company event. Concerns about the timeline of Lily's pregnancy, pointing out an inconsistency. "Your belly's pretty big. Is it a baby? When are you due?" Rhea asked. "In about 3 months, I guess," Lily replied. However, this calculation didn't seem right. Considering she was supposedly impregnated 3 months ago, shouldn't there be more time? Talia also noticed this inconsistency and pressed Lily further. "Is that baby really Rogan's? Isn't it odd for the baby to be due in 3 months? Whose child is it?" Talia voiced her concerns. Lily's expression faltered for a moment before she composed herself and responded, "Of course, it's Rogan's. There's no doubt about it." But Talia wasn't convinced. "Are you sure about that? The timing doesn't add up." Rogan remained silent, seemingly lost in thought. The atmosphere grew tense as everyone waited for an explanation. Lily's demeanor shifted, and she exchanged a nervous glance with Rogan before replying. "Well, there might have been some miscalculation, but I'm sure the baby is Rogan's." Talia continued to scrutinize Lily's response, sensing something was amiss. As the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, it became clear that there was more to the story than meets the eye. Talia decided to address Lily's revelations directly. Surprisingly, Lily didn't seem intent on hiding anything. "Actually, the child isn't Rogan's. I thought about keeping it a secret, but I figured it'd be a hassle to get further involved with him, so I'll just spill the beans," Lily admitted. "Is that why you were honest about the debt too?" I asked. "Yeah, there's no point being with Rogan anymore after all," Lily said with a mocking expression. The atmosphere grew heavy and tense. I felt the urge to get away from there immediately. Meanwhile, Rogan stared intently at Lily with an incredulous expression. Hey, what are you talking about? This is a joke, right? Why would it be a joke? Rogan demanded. I mean exactly what I said, Lily replied firmly. The tension increased, making the atmosphere even more stifling. Amidst this, Talia took charge of the situation. Anyway, I'll call the police, Talia announced. Huh? What are you talking about? Rogan protested. I couldn't care less about you two. But remember, borrowing money under Kate's name is a criminal act. Plus, using the car without permission is also a crime, especially since Rogan and Kate are complete strangers, Talia explained. She instructed me to contact the police. Rogan and Lily were frantically trying to talk their way out of the situation. However, I ignored their pleas and made the call. After a while, I could hear the sirens approaching. This should make them face the consequences, I thought, feeling a huge sense of relief. Finally, things were getting sorted out. In the end, Rogan and Lily faced legal action. They didn't end up in prison, but they had to shoulder responsibilities such as compensation payments, repaying the debt, and child support. On several occasions, they tried to reduce the payments through lawyers, but justice prevailed. A secret recording that Raya had made was used as evidence, leading to the denial of Rogan and Lily's requests. Raya had been inspired to make the recording after watching a scene from a TV show with Talia. I marveled at Raya's quick-wittedness and couldn't help but wonder about the kind of shows Talia had exposed her to. Now Rhea and I live with Talia, and Rhea doesn't face any issues commuting to school since the distance from our previous residence was quite close. The car was safely returned, and it seems Rogan is somehow managing the debt. If Rogan hadn't made those wrong decisions in the first place, he wouldn't have had to face such hardships. Throughout this whole incident, the presence of Talia and Rio was significant, and thanks to them, the situation is heading towards resolution. I'm determined to work hard from now on, hoping for a peaceful life with the two of them.